interesting was as this kind of round of commissions started to come in and scripts started to emerge, although every single play is extraordinarily different, there was a kind of theme running through them, which I felt that we could not ignore, and also that the kind of wider society should not be ignoring. It feels to me that the playwrights, what used to be a sort of quiet, judgmental kind of anger is coming much more to the fore about our lack of democracy, about a sense of apathy in our society, about an inability through votes to really change anything, about a kind of politics which is really sort of grey in the middle and doesn't distinguish either way, and about an absolute need for change. And as kind of citizens of a country, what can we do to kind of make change happen, and who are the people that can lead that change?
So we follow the anonymous hackers group and how they developed into the elite group called Lulzec. And we follow two British boys, Mustafa and Jake, their journey into the world of the internet.
So one of our challenges was how do you put the internet on stage, which I think lots of people are kind of grappling with. So we kind of came up with one of our rules, which was that for this play we're not going to have any screens. So that's both really liberating, but also really hard.
I'm Katie, I'm directing 2071, and this is the scientist Chris Rapley.
Yes, who is currently a Professor of Climate Science at University College London. I
did a production called 10 Billion at the Royal Court about a year ago with another scientist called Stephen Emmett, and I really relished the opportunity to work with a scientist to help communicate a very complex bit of science. And so after that had ended, I then found out about the wonderful Chris Rapley.
I've always had an interest about communicating science and about the link between arts and science. You know, any way that we can make a new connection.
We're not trying to fictionalise anything, we're actually trying to present the authority of Chris's work, what he's experienced, what he's seen, and the conclusions he's come to, and present that as objectively and with as much clarity as possible to a theatre audience.
Hope is a play about councils, about local democracy generally, and about the impact that the cuts are making on councils, and the way that councils are trying to respond to these cuts. I'm quite scared by all this stuff. I've been writing for a while now. I've never written a political play per se, and I'm quite scared about the fact that this is sort of a political play. What inspired me was that sort of it was both the story of the fact that, you know, of the fact that these extraordinary things are happening, and they're happening under our noses, and we don't necessarily see it, and we're not necessarily being part of it. That, you know, that these councils are really struggling, and we don't quite know why, and we don't know quite how they're struggling. And it's something that's happening just there, and it's impacting on us in huge amounts of ways, and because people aren't necessarily engaged in local democracy, they don't quite see it.
This is a play about an aristocratic woman and a homeless man who go on an extremely violent road trip across the UK with pretty catastrophic consequences. It's about how change can happen. What would it take for change to happen? I guess it's to do with violence, and when violence may or may not be necessary in terms of making change happen.
The play is about a young girl's experience of war and her attempt to survive. Liberia's had one of the most brutal civil wars, arguably one of the most brutal civil wars of the 20th, 21st century. But there was so much there to play with. It was, you know, the child soldiers, the warlord Charles Taylor, but the history of the country. It's such a unique country in West Africa, very unlike its neighbours, in that it's a colony founded by freed American slaves. So it's like it's so different from you know, your other West African countries. So it has a kind of charm to it that I found really appealing. I think people should come and see this play because it's important. Just to know that there are children around the world who are living the kind of life that many of us as adults will never experience. And so I think it's important because for some people it will be an eye-opener.
It's about a European woman and her sister who go on a journey from Berlin to Alexandria. And during that journey, Europe sort of falls into a new financial crisis. So Europe and Africa kind of reverse in terms of who has economic status. So that's one thing it's about. It's also about the relationship between her and her sister. But it's mainly about what happens when crises happen and we see how thin the veneer of sort of civilization is. So people start to sort of act in very kind of extremely sort of selfish ways, and rather than sort of pulling together, actually it becomes kind of each man for himself.
The idea came about because I wanted to look at how child-centric or not society is today, and whether or not that benefits children. God Bless the Child started as a rough cut, and Lindsay Turner, the director, and I spoke to all kinds of child experts. I suppose I was really interested in looking at, as adults, like, what do we want from children? What do we need children to be?
It's a very sort of small volume, but in that sort of small volume he tells a story about sort of rebellion and about sort of, you know, in this case monkeys winning their freedom and sort of toppling the establishment. And I thought, well, God, that's our in. It's so ridiculously sort of like, you know, dark, and he goes there and he takes those, you know, suburban sort of people and makes them into absolute sort of like, you know, monsters. Which I think is a great sort of, you know, you English have got sort of great sort of tradition of that, taking sort of people in Surrey and turning them into sort of very itchy sort of, you know, dark creatures. And I think it's just, of course, it's the subversive sort of humour of it, the sort of the darkness of it, that as a sort of writer, you know, like, oh yeah, that's extraordinary. But also, you know, the theatrically, I think just what you can do that in terms of form. So you're sort of like, you can really get sort of like super sort of dark and make these sort of constructions, and at the same time, you know, as we sort of said before, you try and find eke out sort of lightness.
So really, not at all by design, but by necessity, because that's what the writers are telling me that they need to write about. The whole season from September up until April is really about kind of revolution, about a charge to rise up, to question who we are, to question what we accept, and to be fearless about making some kind of change happen.